We set the goal of producing 700 kilos of food on barely 100 square meter of growable space, and this is how we are planning to do this. Let's start out by taking a look at the number 700 kilos. Why that amount? Well, there are studies that have calculated how much we need to grow depending on if we eat meat or not, how old we are, and so on. The study I've used is linked in the description below. It's in Swedish, but Google Translate is your friend if you're curious. In the study, Jenny Helsing, the author, calculates the annual need for potatoes, root vegetables, and other substantial crops such as beans, onions, and cabbage to be 145 kilos for a woman and 187 kilos for a man. Now, this is of course averages. But if I were to calculate myself as an average woman and my husband and 2 boys as average men, we'd end up a bit over 700 kilos. My boys are 2 and 4 years old though, and to be completely honest, sometimes I'm wondering if they are solely surviving off of air because those kids are not big eaters. Given that, why would I grow that much anyway? Well, I like to know that I can grow that much. They won't be 2 and 4 forever. Another reason is because you never know when one crop will have a really unproductive year. Last year, our garlic was not much to celebrate. I'd rather have too much, freeze some, dry some, and know I have a backup when the harvest is poorer. So that's the gap the overproductive years fill in. According to Jenny's essay, you need around 500 square meters of growing space to achieve enough food for a family of 4. This is without walkways, just growable space. Her calculations are based on traditional farming, both where it comes to yields, but also spacing and how we use the space in general. I understand why the calculations need to be made this way. There isn't much data on small at-home gardens, but there are techniques that help the home gardener have a better yield per square meter than commercial farming. As an example, when carrots had a good year in my garden, I harvested 12 kilos per square meter. The essay and many other books talk about a yield of about 4 to 5 kilos per square meter. Potatoes is another one of those, where the essay gives us 1.5 kilos per square meter, but my harvest last year was 15 kilos on the same space. Here's why I believe I have so much better numbers than commercial growing. First of all, I can plant a lot closer together than commercial farming. I don't have any big machines that needs to fit in between the rows, and since I grow in boxes that I can access from multiple directions, that means that I can use the plant spacing as the row spacing as well, giving me a lot more plants per square meter. Second, I can grow in batches, both starting seeds indoors and starting cold outdoors, which means I can get an earlier start. I can also succession sow and plant out multiple times as I harvest. I don't have to plan around one big harvest. I can plan around several small harvests and have plants ready to replace the area. That brings us to succession sowing in general. Traditional farming generally focuses on one crop, one harvest, and one space. I know that is changing and that is fantastic, but the home gardener can get 2 harvests out of every space, sometimes 3 in one season. So if I'm having an optimal growing year, I don't actually have 100 square meters, I have about 300. This does, however, take a lot of planning, and it also requires a lot of fertilizing. Something that is also easier to manage when it's just you, a shovel, and your 2 hands than when heavy machinery needs to be involved. I can harvest, dig down some compost, and then plant my next crop in one box, and in the next box over, I might use a liquid fertilizer to help something that is still growing. The home gardener is also very present in the garden, noticing pests and other issues on individual plants quickly. Now, please don't think that I think badly of commercial farming. Very few of us would survive if they suddenly couldn't do their work anymore. They are literally life-saving and are paid too little, both in money and respect. But I do believe that the kitchen garden in our backyard is more efficient and is also a way to become more self-sufficient and to know where your food comes from. And in this day and age, it's becoming more and more important to keep skills like gardening and preserving alive. So to succeed in our garden this year, we'll start early, keep small plants ready on standby to replace harvested plants, plant closely. I'd rather fertilize heavily and remove plants because it's too crowded than have bare soil. We will also focus on high-producing plants, but only those that we actually do eat. Potatoes will, of course, take center stage, as usual, along with tomatoes, onions, leeks, carrots, peppers, and plenty more. The vegetables I'm currently on the fence about are corn and brassicas. Corn because they take up a lot of space, essentially all through the growing season. And all the harvest is very dependent on the weather late summer. So for the harvest that I have gotten, has not really been worth the space it takes. I would like to try the three sisters growing technique, where you allow squash to cover the ground beneath and peas to climb on the corn. But I have heard mixed reviews on how efficient that actually is. So if anyone watching this has tried and either failed or succeeded and have any advice or can tell me if I should try it out or not, please add it in the comments. I need to know if this is worth trying. For brassicas, the reason is both the yield per square meter, but also the heavy pest load. I have tried everything except nematodes. Netting early on just makes it so they could work undisturbed under the netting, and picking the eggs by checking every single leaf was time-consuming. And harvesting also takes its time because you need to get all of the critters out of the many folds. My broccoli this year was home to tiny slugs, earwigs, and larvae when I washed it. I might do another stubborn try, but corn and brassicas are low on my priority this year. We are expanding some crops this year that we haven't really focused on before, and one of them being sweet potatoes that we enjoy, but I haven't really thought to be very productive in Sweden. But my one lonely neglected plant last year produced a lot in just 10 centimeter deep soil, so we are giving them a real chance this year with better circumstances. Even though the snow is still thick on the ground, the indoor seeds have started to sprout, and I found a garlic plant that actually sprouted in the garden already. So I think the race to the finish line is officially on. If you want to follow along and see if I actually managed to grow 700 kilos of food this year, please don't forget to subscribe. In the next video, we'll take a closer look at what I'm sowing directly outdoors and what plants are on my windowsill under the grow lights, as well as how much I'm planning to plant of each crop and what yield I'm expecting to get. Until then, I hope you have a fantastic week. I'll see you soon. Bye.